Alright, Mario movie discussion. Let's go. So I'm gonna be real. I knew Mario like a lot more than before I got into Sonic. Like I got into Sonic about maybe like 2006, but like a little bit before that with like the Cream the Rabbit LCD McDonald's toy and playing Heroes at McDonald's. Like fun fact, I didn't want a Mario or not Mario. I didn't want a Sonic movie till about 2010 when I saw the Sonic Colors opening. I'm like, dang, I want a movie. Maybe a Sonic Colors movie. I don't know, but I know I want a movie of my fave little speedy hedgehog boy. But Mario, I knew I wanted a movie ever since I played the games, and yeah, like I like Mario. Like my favorite is still Donkey Kong on the Game Boy. Like that was like my first game, so like I have a nostalgic for that, and that's why DK is my favorite. So yeah, like I like Mario a lot. Like I remember like bugging my mom for like Mario Kart Wii pajamas at Target. So yeah, I like Mario. He's cool. I like him. So on to Illumination, kind of like the biggest hot take around about that studio doing Mario. But I'm gonna be real. If you know me, I've pretty much gotten out of my like I hate Illumination, but like deep down, like I'm wearing a Minion shirt. Like yeah, no, I like Illumination. And I'm a huge Minions fan too. And like I'm gonna be real, like around the time on this channel I revisited the movie Sing. A lot of people's issue, I remember around that time I was making that video, a lot of people around that point were like, what the hell were we mad about at Illumination? Like, I honestly don't remember all of the hoopla. And that's an important word, hoopla, because no one knew what was going on with the Illumination conversation because it was so goddamn messy. There was no nuance, there were no other perspectives. It was just one big messy echo chamber. Not to mention you had the really awful 2010 reviewing culture that was going on around that time and has died off ever so slightly, but not by much, but we're still changing. And I'll say this. I like Illumination. The only movies I'd say I don't really care for is The Lorax, and I've revisited Despicable Me 3. I still feel like it's the weakest in the franchise. Could have been better, but for what it is, it's okay. So, oh yeah, and Hop is a mixed bag. Guilty pleasure. I don't use that term a lot, but yeah, it's a guilty pleasure, but even I can admit, not the best. Also, I'd say Secret Life of Pets 1 is it's alright, but 2 is a bit better, but yeah, one I thought was fun, but looking back at it now, it's alright. If I'm being honest with you, I'd say as a fan of Illumination, I'd say my biggest problem is you know what you're expecting. Despicable Me, you're expecting a fun, animated, family friendly summer blockbuster romp. Minions, you're expecting a sketch comedy routine, summer blockbuster romp. Sing, you're expecting a fun interpersonal relationship jukebox musical. Secret Life of Pets, sketch comedy routine with a bunch of pets. Um, the Dr. Seuss movies, or you're expecting a Dr. Seuss movie, kind of. You could kind of see where I'm going at. I feel like Sing is probably the only Illumination franchise that takes a bit of risk, but that's simply because it's by different people. A lot of the movies Illumination produces, it's by the same people over and over again. I know Despicable Me 3 had new people on it, but that's like that and Sing are like the only instances where I could say new people worked on it. So, but I will say this though. from the moment Sing came out, I would say that the studio is evolving ever so slowly. It took a while to get to Minions Rise of Gru, but I would say it was a good wait. It was a good wait period. Minions Rise of Gru is, in my opinion, the best Minions and Despicable Me as a franchise has ever looked. Not to mention, I forgot the name of the short, but I highly recommend the Minions Dungeon and Dragon short, but also the shorts that came out for Despicable Me 3. Or not Despicable Minions Rise of Gru. I don't know why I said Despicable Me 3, but Minions Rise of Gru. I highly recommend watching the shorts that came out for Minions Rise of Gru, especially the Dungeons and Dragons one. If you're not interested in watching Rise of Gru, totally get it, so I recommend those shorts. But if you watch Minions Rise of Gru, in my opinion, this is the most cartoony the Minions have been, and the human characters too. So with that said, Illumination has definitely evolved, and I can see changes are going on in the studio. Heck, I think like before Sing 2 got dropped, I think around that time, I think they mentioned that they're having like a studio shakeup and like new people working in the studio that are making changes in the studio. And I can definitely say like Sing and Rise of Gru, I could see those changes happening. Sing already had that basis of being an interpersonal relationship franchise that is ever growing, so I can see where that change happened. Minions Rise of Gru, it was a prequel, but because of the animation, I can definitely say that, the studio's definitely changing up how they approach their art style and animation too. Um, yeah, that's really about it. So, when it came down to the Mario movie, I definitely expected big changes to happen, and well, here we are. I would say the best news I heard about the movie was Ed Scudder. I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly. If you don't know who Ed Scudder is, they were the showrunner of Unikitty. Not to mention, there are people who worked on other WB cartoons involved in, I think, the writing department. I know Ed's in the writing department of the Mario movie. And don't get this twisted when I'm talking about Ed. There are other WB talent in the movie, and I don't want to ignore that contribution, like, at all. I'm only hyping up Ed simply because I know Unikitty, and that's very important. So if you feel like I'm ignoring you, I'm not. As a fan, I know Unikitty. I know Unikitty from head to toe. Um, you know, at a time during Unikitty's run, I was obsessed. I'm still, even though it's done, I'm still obsessed. So don't get me wrong, don't want to ignore your contributions. You guys are awesome and amazing. I'm just hyping up Ed simply because this trailer gives me major Unikitty vibes. But not just Unikitty. I think it's important that other than Ed, there's a bunch of other WB talent involved with this movie. And I can tell you right now, if we didn't know the studio who was making it, and we only saw the Bowser part of the trailer and the Mario part of the trailer, but mostly the Bowser part of the trailer, I would have looked at you and I would have told you this was a WB Animation Group movie. But no, it's an Illumination movie. And right there alone tells me the biggest change in Illumination. They want new blood in their studio and also in the writing department. I don't know what it is about Illumination trailers. Like, if you remove the Illumination logo at the beginning of a trailer, remove that aspect, you can tell you're watching an Illumination trailer. And I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier. There isn't really enough, like, new blood over in over at Illumination, and this right here, this trailer alone tells me they want new people there to create new experiences for that studio. And that's amazing. That makes me really happy as an Illumination fan to see that Illumination wants to grow and change. But it also makes me happy that the Mario movie is going for a Unikitty approach. Now, I can tell you right now, the animation streets barely watched Unikitty, and that's okay. After this video is done, do your homework. If you have Hulu, watch Unikitty ASAP. I think that's the best homework everyone can do before the Mario movie approaches. Because that trailer alone, it gives me major Unikitty vibes simply because that's the type of humor Unikitty has. And let me tell you, the Bowser and the 64 penguin scene, it had me in Shawn Mendes stitches. I was rolling. I had a blast with that scene. And because of that scene, and then you had the scene with Mario and Toad wanting to journey off to the Mushroom Kingdom, going to Peach's castle, it really honestly reminds me of, the Mario universe in general, but Unikitty as a universe as well. The two things that Mario and Unikitty have in common are the fact that they are sandbox worlds. Anything is possible. And because of that alone, having the showrunner of Unikitty and a bunch of people from WB, having them brought over to this project, I can definitely tell you that Illumination and Nintendo really did their homework to make sure that this fell in line with Mario. Then we kind of go on to the next part. The reason why I'm really, really glad that this Mario movie has Unikitty vibes is because, I'm gonna be real, Unikitty could have easily fell apart for one reason and one reason only. If the character dynamics and interactions were not there, that whole Unikitty set would have crumbled apart. And that's not good. But because the character interactions and character dynamics between Unikitty and her friends, because it was there, oh, we got something really magical and really funny too. Not to mention the supporting cast. The supporting cast is just as funny as the main cast too. And that alone gives me hope for Mario and the rest of the Mario cast are really funny characters that get to bounce off of one another and have the best dialogues and back and forth and character dynamics being so drastically different from one another, and we're all having a ball just watching them. And I mean, that is true about the Mario gang. They're a funny bunch of characters, and that alone tells me that, we're gonna get a Mario movie that fits in line to Mario's comedic side. And that makes me happy. That makes me really happy. On top of that, I think we got to talk about the casting. So, Jack Black Bowser. Oh, great. Love it. Honestly, if I'm being real, it's giving me early 2000s vibes. If this movie came out back then, that casting would have happened. So, yeah, they did a good job with that. Kevin Michael Richardson, the voice of Smidge from Trolls The Beat Goes On and a bunch of other stuff, and WB Animation Group stuff, had to bring Trolls into this one. If you know me, you know me. Great job as Kamek. Can't wait. I can't think of his name right now, but the voice of Cyborg, he voiced the King 64 Penguin. Amazing. One of the Koopas were voiced by Master Frown and Bugs Bunny and a bunch of other characters, but I brought up Master Frown for a reason. We're talking about Unikitty a bit. They all did good, and they're, well, Kamek is a bigger role, but for the people doing the bit roles, that makes me so happy. One of my favorite things about uh, movies that came like right when Sing came out and then afterwards, I love hearing voice actors I know from like Cartoon Network or like Disney Channel or things like that having bit roles in Illumination movies, and it makes me really happy to see. So the fact that the Mario movie has this, my goodness, let me tell you, that movie is going to be fun. Trying to figure out who voiced who in terms of the supporting cast. So that'll be fun. And then you have the voice of Toad. I can't think of his name right now. He was from Mad TV, and I can't think of his name, but I like that guy. Okay, so you either fall into two camps. You're either a Toad comfort character or a Yoshi comfort character. For me, Toad's my comfort character. Been for years. Toad is my favorite, and the fact that I can't think of his name. I think it's, we'll put it up screen, or you know who it is. But the voice actor for Toad for this movie, oh my gosh, it's so perfect. It's how I would have imagined it, and I'm really happy with that one. Really happy. I think Toad's definitely going to have great lines and just great back and forth. I can't wait. But then we have the elephant in the room. Chris Pratt as Mario. I felt like this was miscasting when it was announced. And currently speaking, I could tell you right now that trailer where it came down to Mario, it was done dirty for Mario, but not for Toad. Toad was perfectly fine. In fact, if you look at the trailer, like they cut out Mario's scream when he sees Toad for the first time. So that was cut off, and to be quite honest, Mario did not have a lot of lines of dialogue. I can hear the Brooklyn accent in Chris, but you can tell it's Chris. And right now, it's something I gotta get used to. But I'll say this, and I'll say this right now. Chris Pratt better have, because he said he practiced. So the one thing I could really say is Chris Pratt better hope that he has a Roger Craig Smith in him from learning from how to do Mario's voice. Because this might sound weird, but Chris Pratt's Mario, it's to me, in terms of how this trailer was shown off, he doesn't have a lot of energy. And that reminds me of Richard from Unikitty, who, I mean, that character was built to be like monotoned and like no personality, very deadpan. And Richard's hilarious. So if they told him to, do what Roger Craig did for Richard, let me tell you that Mario is going to have some funny lines. So if Chris is not doing the whole Yahoo woohoo stuff that Chris Martinet does, then Richard Mario wouldn't be so bad with a Brooklyn accent, kind of like the Super Show. And that kind of brings me to another point. The Super Mario Super Show. This gives me, like, if Nintendo was, like, okay with the Super Show and was like, okay, Super Show vibes, Unikitty and WB creators, Illumination, here's the plan. I don't think that's bad. I honestly don't think that those combos are a bad idea, and considering we have Chris as Mario, going back to the 90s, which is like super weird for Mario to do in terms of like American America media. I don't think that's bad. I don't think that's a bad thing. Not to mention Super Show, you know, it did its own thing with the Mario lore. And, even that was very much a sandbox universe too. So, really, being a modern Super Show, having one person who worked on Unikitty, WB talent, and the animation looks amazing and is putting Illumination on a new track record to really a new era of Illumination. I don't think I could honestly complain and say that I have really any ill feelings towards this movie. We'll see what more comes out for this movie, but I'm really excited. I can't really think of a negative outside of Chris Pratt's Mario. And even then, I have hopes that Chris can just do a different Mario, and that's kind of similar to the 90s of the Super Show. So, yeah, that's that's about it. I'm really excited. I can't wait for this Mario movie I've been waiting for since childhood, and Illumination going into a new direction with this movie, and honestly a new era for Illumination that I'm very excited for. So yeah. Anyways, I'm Speed Force Spectre, and I'm signing out.